GIT profile. Okay, so for this lecture, we will be focusing more on stool exam and gastric fluid or gastric analysis. Okay, so for stool exam, now let's talk about the physiology of the stool. About 8 to 10 liters of fluid would enter your duodenum every day, and much of this fluid would be absorbed in your small intestine. And about from the 8 to 10 liters, 1.5 liters would enter the large intestine. And from your 1.5 liter, only 100 to 100 to 150 ml of your fluid will be voided in stool. And the other component, okay, so the other component would be later I will discuss this. So 100 to 200 grams of your stool would be passed each day. Okay. Now, the bacterial metabolism would produce the strong odor. That's why your stool is has this particular smell. And this is also associated with your feces and your flatus. Now, as I said before, the stool composition, majority of this would be water, okay? While the others would be secretion from your saliva, gastric, liver, pancreatic, intestinal, denuded cells from your lining epithelium, WBC, inorganic materials, and few bacteria, both living and dead. Now, as I said before, we're going to focus on the stool. So stool specimens are required for evaluation of different GI diseases like your diarrhea, malabsorption, and detection of any infectious agent and occult blood. Okay, and also diagnosis of your other GI condition, especially cancer. So for stool specimen, it should be ideally, it should be passed or submitted to the laboratory within 1 hour, ideally. Okay. Um, each laboratory has their own turnaround time. For our institution, the turnaround time for the stool would be 1 hour. Okay. For liquid specimen, it should be submitted within 30 minutes. Semi-form specimen within 1 hour, and solid specimen 24 hours after passage. But as I said before, each laboratory has their own turnaround time. Okay. So next, specimen collection and transport. So each collection, transport, and processing of specimen are different for each microorganism like viruses, bacteria, and parasites. So let's talk about each. For viruses, okay, stool is the preferred choice of sample for detection of your enteroviruses. Okay, these are viruses that are responsible for gastroenteritis. What are the best example would be rotavirus. So the stool specimen should be collected in a clean container, tightly dapat, okay, or in VTM, okay, like the one in the picture. This is a viral transport medium. So if pieces cannot be obtained, okay, by passage of stool, you can do a rectal swab. Okay, the rectal swab would be inserted beyond your anal sphincter, then rotated and withdrawn, and then the swab would be placed inside the VTM. Now, these specimens should be delivered promptly to the laboratory. Okay, if this is not possible, the specimen can be stored into a transport container that has a temperature of 4 degrees Celsius, and it can be stored up to 3 days. Okay, and it should be transported in wet ice. Next, for bacteria. For the processing of the specimen, okay, testing for the viruses, the testing preferred for this is NAT, nucleic acid amplification test. So more of molecular testing. Next, for bacteria, okay? So bacteria collection and transport, the use could be, depende kasi to sa same pa rin ng mga ng container, wide mouth, tight lid container. Okay? So, di ba kanina I talk about rectal swabbing. Pero dito kasi mas prefer yung collected from defecation. Pero for rectal swab is used as last resort na siya. Kasi mas bumababa yung sensitivity. And if you are going to test for Neisseria gonorrhea, Chlamydia trachomatis, Shigella, and vancomycin-resistant Enterococcus, you can do rectal swab. Okay? Yun yung pwede lang for this microorganism. Okay? So, the stool specimen should be from the pag nag-defecate, dapat from the yung before pa siya tumulo doon sa toilet bowl. So para maiwasan yung mga contaminants like urine, any barium or toilet paper, because this can affect the viability of our bacterial specimen. Okay, so each laboratory has their own transport medium. Meron silang tube na may transport media for this specimen. Pero idea or in our dito sa country na to, kinokollect siya in a sterile wide mouth bottle. Okay? So all of the specimens should be kung bacteria ang iniisip natin, this specimen should be delivered within 1 hour. Why 1 hour? Because bumabagsak yung pH. Pag bumagsak yung pH, mag-i-inhibit yung growth ng mga bacteria mo. So hindi siya tutubo sa culture media and magiging false negative yung ating specimen. Okay? So for clinicians, kung maging clinician na kayo, if you have, especially for adult, if you have a stool sample na negative, initially negative siya, you must or you can opt to take another second stool sample dahil yung detection ng pathogen mas tumataas yung detection rate. Kasi pag isa lang, 87%. Pag dalawang stool sample, 98%. Only for adults. Pero pag kids kasi, initial sample, mas mataas na yung detection rate. There is a study for that. So, stool culture, paano kung hospitalized for more than 3 days? You should avoid or inappropriate ang pag-collect ng stool samples sa mga hospitalized patient within 3 days, except kung ang food na kinakain nila ay galing labas at hindi galing sa hospital at nagtain siya. You can offer, kung hospitalized hospital-based or parang hospital-acquired diarrhea, isang isipin natin dito is yung C. difficile test. So you can offer this test for them, okay? So the testing should be performed only sa mga patient with 3 or more unformed stool, 24 hours na hindi nag-take ng any laxative. Okay? Then after you submitted this, routinely, we will do the bacterial culture. Tatlo yung bacteria na routine, kasama sa routine. Shigella, Salmonella, and Campylobacter. Okay? Different yung culture media na mga ginagamit dyan. We can also do special test for this one, yung mga nucleic acid amplification test. Meron na yan. Pero I don't think, hindi ko sure kung meron na dito na sa Philippines. Okay, next. Testing, parasites. Okay. So for parasite, ito yung usual wide mouth tight lid container pa rin. It should be collected in there. And then, the portion of these samples would be divided into two. Okay, so yung first sample will be put in a sample na may 10% formalin fixative, and then the other one would be in so may PVA, polyvinyl alcohol fixative. Okay, so as usual, hindi pwedeng yung mga sample na nagaling na doon sa toilet bowl. Kailangan during the process of defecation, bago pa siya tumulo sa toilet bowl. Okay, so for 10%, best siya for preservation of eggs, larvae, and cysts. Okay, for PVA, best siya for mga trophozoites. Okay, fresh stool is optimal for examination of motile trophozoites. Kaso nga lang, ang problema dito kasi at least 30 minutes, kailangan mapasa mo na siya sa laboratory. Pero kung hindi, pwede naman tayong gumamit ng special stains for this one. Okay, so next, terms to remember. Okay, let us remember na pag 3 or more episodes of blue stools, that is called diarrhea. Okay, yung hindi siya usual. Steatorrhea, large amount of mushy, foul-smelling gray stool that floats on water. Okay, dapat pale din, pale yung yung color na steatorrhea. Skibala, small firm spherical masses of stool, para siyang itsura ng stool ng goats. Dysentery, diarrhea with mucus and blood. Creatorrhea, abnormal amount of muscle fibers in feces, and amylorrhea, abnormal amount of starch in feces. So first, let us examine the macroscopic appearance. So for the macroscopic appearance, we will check if there is the presence of mucus. So the presence of mucus, stool specimen is abnormal and it should be reported. Okay. Pag merong mga parang gelatinous mucus na nakadikit doon sa stool, okay, this could suggest, okay, suggested lang to, baka ang patient natin is constipated or may mucus colitis. Nangyayari din to sa mga emotionally disturbed patient dahil lagi silang nagpipigil. And they have, nagkakaroon din kasi ng mga episodes ng inflammatory bowel disease, idiopathic bowel disease, yung alternating constipation and diarrhea, yung mga emotionally disturbed patient. Another would be villus adenoma of the colon. So possible to. Possible, mga differential diagnosis. What if may mucus na nakahalong blood? Okay? Pwedeng mga infectious or malignancy. Next is mucus and pus. Okay? Pag ang mucus merong pus, okay, pwedeng ulcerative colitis or inflammation or intestinal tuberculosis or infection. Okay? Paano kung mucus with pus tapos merong blood? So lahat na sila. Okay? Same kanina. Meron ka din sa ulcerative colitis, pareho sila. Pwedeng may blood, pwedeng wala sa ulcerative colitis. Bacillary dysentery, okay, ulcerating diverticulitis. Dapat ulcerating. Cancer of the colon, okay. Same dito na may mucus and blood. Acute diverticulitis and intestinal tuberculosis. Okay, so intestinal tuberculosis and ulcerative colitis could have with or without blood. Paano kung pasty stool, okay, with high fat content? Ito yung mga nagpo-produce ng increased mucus production. Yan, kaya yung cystic fibrosis nandito. Common bile duct obstruction din. Okay? Next, odor and color. Siyempre, kasama sa reporting ang color. Okay? For adults and pediatric patient, magkaiba yung ano nila eh. Yung binabantayan. Sa pediatric patient, binabantayan pag nag-change ang color ng ganito, pale to light. Kasi baka may liver problem. Yung biliary atresia. Diba? Okay. Pag yellowish naman, more common to sa mga breastfed babies. So, hindi ito for babies, normal pa to. Yung may pagka-yellowish sa kanila. Greenish, ganun din. Diet, baka diet. Okay. Or brown. Pero yung bright red, dark brown, both pediatric and adult can have the same abnormality to. Foul odor, degradation of undigested protein or excessive carbohydrate ingest. Pag masyado ka maraming nakain na na meat or nagsanggip sa party, okay, the next day napakabaho ng stool mo. Fermentative, ito common to sa mga lactose intolerant. Okay. So next, microscopic appearance. Okay. So let's start. Wet mouth. Okay. Ito nangyayari ito. Ang most common tong ginagamit, especially for parasites. Okay. Wet mouth. This is the first step for examining microscopic examination of your parasites. First step is wet mouth. Okay. So how do we do this? Okay. Siguro na encounter niyo na to sa parasitology. So sa examination of stool, you will use two staining procedures dito. Okay, dalawang mounting. Isang saline, isang iodine. Yung ibang practice, hiwala yung slide. Yung iba, pinagsasama na nila sa isang slide. Okay? So, kukuha ka ng small sample ng stool and then, yung isang sample with saline solution. And then the other one is yung iodine wet solution. Okay? Okay. So for the saline solution, why is it important na dalawa? For the saline solution, this will show yung mga trophozoites and cysts of the protozoa plus all of the helminths, eggs, and larvae. What is more important in here is the movement of your trophozoites. Okay? Dito makikita mo yung movement nila. Sa iodine naman, you cannot see any trophozoites because nasisira na sila sa iodine. Okay? Or nawawala na sila doon. That's why you can only see cyst in here. Cyst lang. Okay? Next. You can use a special stain for here, buffered methylene blue, because this will stain your amoebic trophozoite. It will not stain your cyst. Okay? Flagellate trophozoite or flagellate cyst, amoebic trophozoites only. Mas maganda to, lalo na kung makikita mo yung movement ng trophozoite na nag-i-ingest ng RBCs. Okay? So for identification of your parasites, sabi ko kanina, for your saline, wet mouth, okay, you can view your trophozoites, cyst, and helminths ng eggs and larvae. For cyst, round or may different ang structure nila, di ba? From what we've learned from the parasitology. Okay, next is iodine wet mouth. Okay, dito makikita no trophozoites, only cyst dahil na nga nasisira na sila doon. So, you can examine the different structures of your cyst in here, especially kung yung presence ng peripheral chromatin. Okay, kung walang chromatin, hindi siya Entamoeba species. Kung may chromatin, Entamoeba species. Next is buffered, yung staining, okay? The buffered methylene blue stains your trophozoite, your amoebic trophozoites. Sorry. So, in here, ang ilulok mo yung peripheral nuclear granules, okay? Kasi yung peripheral nuclear granules, that would say na the trophozoite is an Entamoeba species. Next is fecal, wait lang. So for fecal leukocytes, you will see or you will observe kung may leukocytes ba dito. So what will you do? Okay, especially mucus part ng stool, yun yung kunin mo doon. Okay? Kuha ka ng maliit na sample doon and put it in the microscope or glass slides and place 2 drops of methylene blue. Okay? Mas mabilis din kasi siya. Okay? And then, let it stay in there for 2 to 3 minutes para mas maganda yung nuclear staining. And then, after that, you will view it under the microscope and look for the presence of your leukocytes. So the only cells that we identify for the fecal leukocytes would be mononuclear or polymorphonuclear. Macrophage, pag hindi masyadong ma-identify, especially the macrophages and epithelial cells, they are ignored in this one. Okay? So an alternative test for this one would be fecal calprotectin. Okay, sorry, fecal calprotectin. This is a product of your neutrophil, and this is used to measure for or screen for your inflammatory bowel disease. Now, okay, so from my training, hindi ko pa to na encounter. More of this one. Okay? Okay. What is the clinical implication of WBC? Siyempre, invasiveness, okay? These are the diseases, okay? Pag mononuclear, typhoid, majority. Polymorphonuclear, as I said, ito yung mga neutrophils, okay? These are the diseases. Next is meat fibers. Now, meat fibers, this procedure is no longer done. Hindi na to ginagamit. Pero we will discuss this only for reference. And baka naman meron kasing rare moments na mag-report nito. Very, very super rare. Okay? So, so what will you do is that yung stool mo, okay, you will mix it in a slide with eosin and 10% of alcohol and allow it to stay there for 3 minutes and examine yung mga muscle fibers under the microscope. Only the rectangular, okay, itong mga rectangular fibers na to, okay, with clear evidence striations. Yan, yung mga striations. Okay, another one is this one, striations. Ang kinakount. More than 10 fibers per high power field would suggest maldigestion or hypermotility. Okay. Next, fat. So if we're going to talk about fat, let's talk about steatorrhea. Okay? Kasi steatorrhea is a hallmark of your hallmark to ng mga patients with malabsorption. So pag may steatorrhea, yung stool nila fluid or semi-fluid or malambot, they're pasty, pale, bulky, and foul-smelling. Now, this is because mataas kasi yung fat content ng kanilang stool. And some of these stools can float on water. Pero yung pagpo-float ng stool sa water, yun yung pwedeng mangyari sa mga normal. Yun yung pag-float lang ng water. Okay? So, to test yung steatorrhea na ito, okay, one of the simplest tests that we do is fat. Okay, identification of fat in the microscope. This is the most simplest, most effective, and most cost-effective method to screen for steatorrhea. So, we use Sudan stains for this one. So, how will you do it? Small amount of stool would be placed a slide and then mix it with 2 drops ng ethanol. Then after that, after mo yung lagyan ng 2 drops of ethanol, dun mo lalagyan ng Sudan. Okay? Most preferred is Sudan 3. And then you mix it. and then you will view it under the microscope. Pag fatty acid, they will be lightly stained as parang flaky or needle-like crystals. Tapos, etong nakikita natin, these are neutral fats, okay? They would appear like large orange or red droplets. Kung sa initial, 60 or more stained droplets sa neutral fats ang nakita mo, this could be or suggestive of steatorrhea. Okay, 60 or more. But be careful kasi yung mineral oil or castor oil na ginagamit, pwede kasing gumamit na other than ethanol yung mineral oil or castor oil na ginagamit, pwedeng mag-mimic ng neutral fat appearance. Okay? So then, this procedure would be repeated, uulitin. Okay? Tapos, by adding several drops of 36% of acetic acid to the stool mixture. Then, you will warm it. Papainitin mo siya until na mayroong slight boiling na mag-appear doon sa sample. And then, the reason for this is because i-convert mo yung neutral fats and so yung neutral fats to fatty acids. And then it will melt the fatty acid that would cause them to form these droplets that would stain much strongly doon sa ating Sudan tree para mas maganda yung itsura niya. So after this procedure, okay, kanina kasi 60 or more ano na siya, suggestive. So dito, normal sa kanila hanggang 100. Pero pag more than 100, okay, yung nakita natin, this is positive for fat. Okay? Mahaba yung procedure. Okay. There are other tests for steatorrhea like your WBC, yung mga vitamin, fat-soluble vitamins, okay? Another is yung quantitative fecal test, okay? Marami itong problema, this test, okay? Because this test has many limitations. Maraming limitation. Sample collection is known to be incomplete, sabi sa isang study. There is also poor precision sa analytic performance. Kaya mahirap ang interpretation dito. And now, there are newer, may mas maganda pa kasi mga tests compared dito sa quantitative fecal test na hindi na gumagamit ng stool. So, dito, you can use breath test and mixed chain triglyceride breath test. So, dadaanan lang natin kasi hindi siya sa stool More of breath test. Okay? However, itong test na to, marami din itong mga limitation like yung mga patients that have hyperthyroidism, chronic respiratory insufficiency, okay? And mga pregnancy. May pangit, may mga problema siya sa mga groups of patients na yun. Next is special technique, okay? So kanina, di ba pinag-usapan natin yung wet mount. Now, after you wet mount, even if you have the presence of fat, right? May nakita kang mga parasite, you should still do concentration technique. You can do this in both fresh and fixed specimen because this will detect microorganisms that are present in lower number kasi dumadami sila dito. Next is the Kato-Katz technique or cellophane fecal thick smear. This is a qualitative or semi-quantitative test for identifying helminths. Okay? Especially as lahat ng mga helminths. Another is by using the permanent stain. Okay, this picture I got is from CDC. Dito sa Philippines kasi, permanent stain, we use gram stain for different types of bacteria, especially mga gram-negative bacteria na yun. Then Ziehl-Neelsen for your TB and Cryptosporidium, okay? Pero kasi ngayon, meron na tayong for TB of the GIT, we use gene expert na dito. Next is trichome stain, okay? Dito. Yan. You can use this for identification of protozoan and trophozoid. So sa kanila, parang sineparate nila depende sa fixative na ginamit. Kasi nga, di ba sabi ko kanina, may 10%, meron sila sa American ethyl acetate concentration and then fixative na PBA. Okay? So the lactoferrin latex agglutination test, okay, this is a confirmatory test for invasive bacterial pathogen. Okay, kasi kanina, di ba, leukocyte test. Tapos ito, gusto mo ng confirmatory ito. Okay, so the presence of your lactoferrin, yung lactoferrin kasi is a component of your secondary granules sa WBC. Now, this test is a sensitive pa rin siya kahit naka-ref or frozen yung stool sample mo. Okay, so for fecal occult blood testing, let's talk about gastrointestinal bleeding. So yung GI tract mo kasi, okay, normally, you will lose, normally you will lose 0.5 to 1.5 ml of blood sa GI tract daily. Okay, normally yan. Tapos, more than that, okay, greater than 5 to 10 ml per day, 5 to 10 ml per day, ang nadidetect ng mga occult blood testing natin. Okay? So, for fecal occult blood testing, this would depend sa peroxidase activity ng hemoglobin. The reagents that we use would be GAIAC, ito ang pinaka-common, GAIAC, ortholudine, orthodiancylene, and benzidine. Most common that we use is the GAIAC. Okay? So, remember, ang test natin na di-detect is 5 to 10 ml. Okay. Occult blood, yung mga occult blood na to can arise anywhere sa GI tract natin. And this is often the first warning sign ng malignancy or cancer. Pero yung mga occult blood na to can also happen other than yung mga GI malignancy condition or malignancy condition. What are the other example? Esophageal varices, okay? Polyps, inflammation ng GIT, okay, or ulcer. So yun, nangyayari siya doon. So GAIAC is a naturally occurring phenolic compound that is oxidized to quinone by your hydrogen peroxidase. So itong reaction na to would result into detectable color change, especially this one, the color blue. Now, this test, yung GAIAC FOBT, would detect the pseudo-peroxidase activity of your heme. Okay, pseudo-peroxidase. So, ito yung either intact hemoglobin or free heme. Hindi-detect na yan doon. So, kasi ang problema dito, hindi siya specific sa human hemoglobin. Okay? Nadidetect din niya yung hemoglobin ng other substance. Like hemoglobin ng meat and fish. Okay? Kaya nagpo-false positive siya doon. Bakit nagpo-false positive pag kumakain ito ng mga vegetables na to? Horseradish, turnips, bananas, black grapes, pears, and plums. It's because okay. Sorry. So because yung yung bacterial sorry about that. Sorry. Because meron kasing yung ang process nito is yung digestion, yung mga ano na to, yung pag-digest kasama ng bacteria can produce peroxidase, and sometimes some of these vegetables have their own peroxidase activity. Another drugs that would cause false positive, yung mga drugs na nagko-cause ng GI upset. Okay? So like anticoagulants, NSAIDs, colchicine, and reserpine. False negative naman, okay, itong vitamin C kasi binablock niya yung reaction and other antioxidants. So, pag mag-advise kayo sa patient, kailangan nilang mag-abstain or avoid eating this food for 72 hours. Okay? So, dahil doon sa mga false positive and false negative test na to, kaya ang sensitivity niya nagiging 30 to 50%. Okay? So, ito, available na rin to sa laboratory. Immunochemical fecal occult blood test. This is more specific and more sensitive sa human hemoglobin. Okay? So, and they also give fewer false negative. So, ito, mas specific na yung test niya. Hindi na niya dinidetect yung yung mga horse meat radishes. So, this one would not be affected by diet, okay? Ng mga vegetables and meat na yon. So, they are useful only for screening ng blood ng lower intestinal tract. Insensitive sila sa ugib kasi yung globin nadi-destroy sa small intestine. Kaya yun lang yung problema dito. Okay? Ito, wala pa yan dito sa Philippines. Pero meron na siya promising technique. Okay, this is a promising technique. Fecal DNA test, okay? Very specific, very sensitive. Involves collection ng isang stool sample lang. Okay? And PCR testing ang ginagamit dito. So next, blood in newborn feces or AP test or swallowed blood. When blood is found sa GI tract ng mga neonates, usually sa second or third day of life nila, makikita yun. Yung blood sa stool nila. Okay, normal yun. However, ang problem kasi dito is hindi natin alam kung swallowed blood ba siya or talaga may GI disease si newborn. That's why you will do an AP test. Okay? The distinction sa AP test is a qualitative test and used to identify ng presence ng fetal hemoglobin sa mga very, very grossly bloody stools or vomit ng newborn infants. So, infants may ingest yung maternal blood during birth or from fissured or bleeding nipple. Okay? So, what will you do is that the sample would be mixed with water and then with centrifuge. Tapos, yung supernatant, okay? Yung supernatant, yun yung titingnan mo ng color change. Okay? If the supernatant, which should be pink, kailangan mong i-mix ito na 1% NaOH. Okay? Kung ang blood is maternal ang origin, okay, the mixture would turn yellow to brown after 7 minutes. So first muna po sila magiging pink. Then you will mix with 1% NaOH. Pag yellow to brown, okay, maternal in origin. Pero pag nagstay siyang naging pink, it is fetal hemoglobin. So ito, pag pink pa rin siya, positive siya for GI disease of the newborn. Next is malabsorption test, okay? Malabsorption test, you have to differentiate kasi kung ito ay intestinal malabsorption or pancreatic malabsorption. Okay, kanina pinag-usapan na natin si steatorrhea. Ngayon, pag-usapan naman natin si pancreatic malabsorption. There are two tests kasi, pero isang test lang doon na ginagamit for pancreatic malabsorption. Actually, two tests according kay Henry's. Pero meron pa siya others. So, dito, ang i-discuss natin is elastase. Yung others kasi si chymotrypsin. Okay. So what is elastase? Elastase 1, this is a proteolytic enzyme that is produced dun sa pancreas. Now, pancreatic elastase would survive yung transit niya sa intestine and it would be concentrated 5 times to 6 times sa stool. Pag-reduce ang iyong elastase sa feces, this would indicate pancreatic insufficiency. Okay? So, the test that you will do in here would be ELISA or meron pang isa EIA. Pwede din yung EIA dito. So, kahit na sensitive yung test na yan, yung test, itong method of testing na to, for severe pancreatic, basta severe pancreatic insufficiency, na mababa ang kanyang sensitivity pag mild yung pancreatic insufficiency ng patient. Yun lang yung problema dito. Okay? This elastase 1, kasi di ba pwede ka rin mag-test ng trypsin for this one. Much better ito, ang elastase 1 for them. And a single analysis of your stool is adequate na. Hindi mo na kailangan ng maraming stool sample for this one. Okay. Another malabsorption test, okay, yung mga disaccharidase deficiency. Most common yung mga walang lactase, okay? Lactose intolerance, okay? So ito yung mga disaccharidase deficiencies, yung primary, meron tayong primary and secondary. So screening tests for your disaccharidase deficiencies would include oral challenge and followed by stool analysis ng specific deficiency. So the gross picture of your stool would be watery, acidic, explosive yung pag-poops niya, yung description ng patient, and fermentative. Then another test na ginagawa natin dito is yung pH, okay? Less than 5.5 is suggestive. You can also do chromatography, okay? And another later I will show you. Yung sasabi kong lactose intolerance, hindi kasi siya sa stool ginagawa. Breath test siya. Okay, kaya hindi ko na siya nasama dito. Mostly kasi serum and breath test na yung mga testing for this one. For another test na carbohydrates, you can do copper reduction tests. Okay? For your Clinitest tablet. Okay. Next. Ito na yung sabi ko kanina, pH. A normal pH level of your stool is between 7 and 8. A decrease of pH below 5.5, it could be there is an increased use of carbohydrates by intestinal bacterial fermentation, and that would increase the lactic acid level carbohydrate disorders. So why do we do pH? Okay, this is very important, especially kung may diarrhea ka. Kung gusto mo malaman kung osmotic or secretory. Pag decrease, osmotic. Pag increase, secretory. Diarrhea. Okay? Yun yung isa sa clinical implication that is not written in this slide. So, another, pag increase, ito yung mga diseases. Pag decrease ang pH, ito. Okay? Next, gastric examination. Okay. So, for gastric examination, gastric fluid analysis, hindi na to ginagawa. Okay? Gastric fluid analysis. This is not done in clinical practice. Before, pero we were just going to discuss this for reference. Before, for gastric fluid analysis, this was used to measure yung gastric acid content, gastric levels, complete esophagectomy, differentiated gastric from duodenal ulcer, or detect blood or TB. Pero kasi ngayon, may mga serum analysis na and EGD. May EGD testing na rin. Kaya hindi na to ginagawa. So for preparation of that patient, the patient should be fasting at least 10 to 12 hours, and patient should have not received any medication, especially anticholinergic this medication. You should weigh the patient prior to the procedure. Now, the procedure should be explained to the patient in simple words. Okay. How to get the gastric fluid analysis? Isa lang siya. NGT. Okay. NGT only. So these are the normal constituents of your gastric juice. This one. Okay. For children, normal sa kanila yung may small amounts of pepsin, renin, and free acid. 4% of otherwise children would have achlorhydria. Okay. Physiologic. Okay, so different cells are found in your stomach. The chief cells, parietal cells, and goblet cells. Now, the chief cells would produce pepsin, parietal cells would produce this one, and the goblet cells would produce mucus. For the gastric juice analysis, it is normally colorless and have this sour or rancid odor. Normal yun sa kanila. The rest are abnormal. Okay, this one. And yung odor, fecal, amoy tae, okay, intestinal obstruction, ammonical, uremia, alcoholic coma. Gastric juice analysis, okay, the pH. The normal pH is very low, 1.6 to 1.8. High acidity, yung mga pH yung 1.4 or lower would indicate hyperchlorhydria or peptic ulcer disease. Pag low ang pH, okay, mataas, basic siya. Hypochlorhydria could have malignancy, or achlorhydria, or advanced malignancy. Okay. What are the abnormal gastric constituents? RBCs, pus cells, okay, tissue fragments, food remnants. That's why it's very important to know when ang kanilang last kumain. Then you should look for undigested food particles. Okay, this is very important kasi 'di ba? Especially kung matagal ka na kumain at meron pa ring undigested food particle inside the stomach. So this is very, very important. Okay? Blood, mucus, tissue fragments, bacteria, parasites, and yeast. Okay. Special examination, you can do GAIAC testing or benzidine test for determination of the blood. Gastric acid. Okay. Gastric acid output. Okay. Pag-increase, these are the clinical diseases. Pag-decrease, this one. Okay. Collection of sample to do your gastric analysis. An nasogastric tube will be inserted and the gastric contents will be aspirated and discarded. Okay. Gastric juice is then collected for 1 hour and divided into 4 15-minute samples. And these samples would represent basal acid output. I think that's the end of my slide. Thank you for listening. Okay, so I will post the PDF copy with the recorded lecture tomorrow pag natapos na lahat ng mga sections. Okay, any questions? Saan na to? Stop share. Any questions? Okay.